Renaissance festivals, what are guilds? And are guild members having to pay to perform? Well, let's talk about it. G'day friends, it's Sprout here in my human disguise. And a while back, I made a video talking about the differences between cast and entertainment. And on that video, I got a ton of comments saying, what about guilds? You forgot to mention guilds. Some people even seemed like they were a little angry that I left out guilds. And as someone who's based in Ohio, I was like, what the heck are guilds? Because here in Ohio, we don't really have guilds. We have like patrons who make their own little guild groups, and then we have like different categories of casts where we're like, oh, we have the 𝐒𝐲𝐵 Guild and the Pirate Guild and the Peasant Guild, but we don't really have the type of guilds that these people are talking about. So I had to research what the heck are guilds. And to my understanding, a guild is basically kind of a mix of like living history, reenactment groups, and LARP groups. Now, all of these things I just mentioned are different, but they kind of function operationally very similar at Renaissance festivals. So what are these groups? Well, living history and reenactment, I'll be honest, I don't really know the difference between the two. I've never participated in living history or reenactment. All I know that is one time I asked a living history person if they're basically like a reenactment group, and they said no, and I was like, okay. But basically they are a group of people who come together and they basically role play characters that are for the most part historically accurate. Like a lot of them are Viking groups, so they'll be like medieval time period Viking groups. They come together, they kind of have like a camping situation where they have a very immersive experience, and they basically live their lives for a time as real people would back in the day. And then LARP groups, live action roleplay, are kind of similar, but they're typically more fantasy, they're not historically accurate, and they're kind of like a D&D group where they go out, they dress up, and they roleplay out quests like in a D&D game, but a lot of the times they're like actually hitting the enemies with actual like foam sticks. And then guilds seem to be more of kind of a West Coast term, or at least not really a term that we use that much here in the Midwest, especially in the Ohio area. They kind of sound like a mix of those other things where it's a group, they come together, and they role play characters. Most of them seem to be historically accurate as much as possible, and different guilds serve different functions. A lot of these groups will have a bunch of crafters where they will teach classes on how to craft that item. For example, they might teach people how to make fabric the old medieval way with like a proper loom and everything, and they will have classes where you can learn how to do all that stuff. Sometimes they'll have more show-based things like armor combat, fencing. I've heard that sometimes they do like music. They might play like historical musical instruments and sing in kind of a historical way. So basically the premise is they role play as their characters. They're not necessarily professional actors or have any kind of acting or improv training, but they are portraying a character and, you know, staying in character throughout the whole event, trying to stay as historically accurate as possible. And they might host classes to, you know, teach people how to make a particular type of item. They might have shows, and they might vend, they might sell products. So on TikTok mostly, and some other platforms, I've been seeing a lot of people complaining and being downright outraged that guild members supposedly have to pay the festival to perform. And I was like, what the heck is that about? Because normally paying to perform is a big no-no. Now, most of these people who are complaining are non-guild members. They are either patrons, or they're other performers, or they're other vendors who are like, what the heck? Why do these guild members have to pay the festival to perform and provide value to the festival? Like, that's outrageous, right? Well, that's just simply not true. Now, full disclaimer, it's definitely possible that one festival out there is making guild members pay the festival individually. It is definitely possible, but generally speaking, that's just simply not how that works. Pretty much every single group of any kind who participate in a festival, they are contracted through one person. That means only one person from that group is either getting paid or they're paying the fee. So the only exception to this would be the individual employees of a festival and the cast members of a festival. But anytime you see like a band, for example, one band member, usually the leader, the owner of that company, is the person who signs contracts and gets paid by the festival. And then that band leader pays the other bandmates their fee. So if the band members are not getting paid, they have to take it up with their band leader, not the festival itself. The same goes for vendors. If a vendor is not paying their sales associates, they need to take it up with their vendor owner, the booth owner, not the festival itself. The festival does not pay or charge fees to anybody else in that group, only that one person. So, in the case of guilds and living history and LARP groups, whether they get paid or they pay a fee depends on what they provide, but I guarantee you these guild leaders, the one guild person, is doing the contracts with the festival. The festival is not paying or charging a fee to the guild members. Only the one who owns the company, or who is like a general manager of the company. So when it comes to a guild paying or getting paid to be at a festival, it depends on their entertainment ratio versus their vending ratio. So vendors have to pay a fee to get into the festival because they're selling product, right? Entertainment gets paid by the festival because they're providing entertainment, right? So if a particular person or group is providing both entertainment and selling products, it starts to kind of level out. It depends on the value of their entertainment and what the vendor fee is. So sometimes there's entertainers who also sell products, and their pay gets lowered because they're selling products, but it might not go all the way even because their value of their entertainment is a bit higher than the vendor fee. Whereas a vendor might also provide like a demonstration or a class that teach people how to make a product. So then usually what happens then is that their vendor fees get waived and they end up leveling out and not paying anything. Okay, that's how that works. Now, in most cases with like living history and LARP groups that I've seen, they usually do get paid. They get paid, the group gets paid by the festival. Now, is it a lot of money? No, it's not. Usually the money that they receive is not enough to pay for all of their people, right? So the money usually ends up just going back into the guild, the company, and they pay for things like, travel fees and replacing equipment, things like tents, maybe food. Sometimes groups like LARP groups, their food is typically provided in with the whole experience, things of that nature. So when someone says that a guild member is paying to perform, guess who they're paying? They're not paying the festival. They are paying their guild fees to the guild leader. Now, why would people charge money to be a part of these guilds? Well, a lot of these guilds will provide classes, and typically when you have a class, you charge a fee to take that class, right? In the situation with the guild, it seems like for the most part, it's kind of a yearly package deal. So it's more like a subscription rather than you pay for each individual class. Now, of course, every single guild and group out there is different, so they might all do different things different ways. For example, a LARP group might charge individually for each LARP event they have, but they also might have a yearly subscription fee of like $10 or whatever to pay for various things. Now, do I agree with this business method? Absolutely not. I do not agree with how most of these groups are running things from a business standpoint, but that's what they do. They pay a fee, and with that fee, they either get an experience or they get like classes. And a lot of these people who are going to Renaissance festivals and participating in it in a certain way, whether it's performing, doing a class, or vending, either way, they still have to pay their membership fees for the most part. Now, it's my personal opinion that if you are providing something of value for your group, like let's say you're going to a festival and you are participating in their like armored combat show. I believe that if you are going to perform for the company, and especially that company is getting paid by the festival, and you're one of the performers of some sort, providing some sort of value to it, at the very least, your membership fee should be waived. I can get behind people not getting paid because what they provide is not really of a significant value and the company is not getting paid enough to pay for everybody. But if your group is making you pay membership fees to go perform at a festival, then you're probably a part of a scam. I'm just gonna put it out there. That sounds like a scam to me. It doesn't matter if your guild leader, your LARP group leader, whoever is in charge of the company, it doesn't matter if they're not making money. It doesn't matter if they have no idea how to run a business and they're losing money. At the end of the day, that's just not how things should work. You have to pay to vend, you have to pay to attend classes, but if you are also providing entertainment of some sort, then, you know, like I said earlier, there is a balancing act. Pay goes down when entertainment is being provided or education is being provided. This also goes for NPCs at a LARP. A lot of American LARPs charge their players to come play the game, obviously, but then they also still charge their NPCs to perform a character that is not their own and read off a script that's not their own and provide an acting service for the LARP. That's a scam. That's pay to play. Not play the game, but, you know, pay to play in the music sense of like playing an instrument without providing anything in return. You know, if you're gonna pay to play, you do it because you're gonna get significant exposure or you're gonna get something out of it. Paying to be an NPC is the same as paying to act for somebody, and that's a scam. I know there's gonna be some LARP runners who are gonna be offended by that, but I don't really care because that's the truth. You're running a scam. It doesn't matter if your company is making profit or not, you just don't know what you're doing with your company. If your company is struggling financially, that's nobody's fault but your own, and you can't be making your employees, by legal definition, pay to work for you. It just doesn't make any sense. So, to sum up this video, do guild members and other similar members have to pay the festival to participate? No. Sometimes they do have to pay their guild leaders to participate, and if they have a problem with that, if anybody else has a problem with that, they should take it up with that guild leader, not the festival. Now, do festivals have their own problems? Abso-freaking-lutely. But charging guild members to perform for them is not one of them. Well, I hope that cleared up some things for you guys. I hope that answered your questions that you've asked me in the past, and also maybe it helps educate the people who are outraged at festivals because of something that's not true. If you're going to be outraged by a festival, I'm sure there are other things they're doing wrong that you can be outraged about, but that's just not one of them. It is ultimately the guild leader's job to make an appropriate negotiation with the festival, because if a guild leader's like, hey, we'll come perform for you guys for free, is the festival gonna say no? Probably not. Anyway, I hope you guys learned something today. If you have any questions about anything related to Renaissance festivals or similar events, go ahead and just let me know down in the comments below, and hopefully I will get to your question at some point. If I don't make a video, I will at least respond to your question. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this video, and if you like my hat, I will be eventually selling it, although I think I'm going to be waiting to maybe sell it in person one day. I think I'm gonna try my hand at vending, get a little bit of vending experience in, but this hat will be on sale. You can check out my fairy shop at 𝐒𝐕𝖗𝐵 Fashion, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.